check, good. So I'm Ceron, CWB Association Welding podcast. Today we have a really cool guest, Welding podcast.
The show is about to begin.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the CWB Association podcast. My name is Ceron, and as always, I'm always trying to scour the nation and North America for the best and most interesting guests I can find. And this young man has been a very interesting person that I met in the last year. And I've gotten to work with him on a couple different projects in different places around the country, and he's also from my home country. So today we have Stefano Sacco Hawas from Chile, who's living right now in Edmonton, going to the UofA. Stefano, how are you doing?
Hi, Max. How are you? I am really good. Happy to be here, though.
Good. You know, and we just so the people know, I'm planning on recording this same, well, maybe not the same, but another interview with Stefano in Spanish because I have been saving some Spanish podcasts under the rug, and I'm going to be releasing an all Spanish series down the pipe here. So, you know, I got this guy on tap for another podcast, but in another language. So if hopefully we don't accidentally start talking in Spanish, right?
Hope so, though. Well, if I cannot explain myself, probably I will say some words and you can help me, but let's see.
All right, Stefano. So let's start from the beginning with a couple questions. Number one, where are you right now? Where are you coming into us from in this conversation?
I am in Edmonton, Alberta. Actually, I live in a six-bedroom house. So I live with another Chilean guy, two Italians, one Uruguayan, and one Brazilian girl. And this has been my home since I arrived here. I arrived here on 2021. It has been incredible, though.
Yeah, it's not too many people around you drive you crazy?
Oh, no. Actually, I prefer the things happening, though. I prefer the people with different things to do. I prefer going out. I prefer to always be busy. And that is another way that is another way of not missing out my family and not miss Chile. So that is pretty good for me.
Good. And now let's get into the meat of the program here. Let's talk about you, Stefano. So where were you born? What's your hometown?
I was born in Santiago de Chile, in Santiago of Chile, actually. But I grow in Los Andes. That is a little town near Santiago, like 80 kilometers away from Santiago, near the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew kind of like in a farm with cows, with horses. Since I like 3 years old, I was like riding horses and that kind of stuff.
So then, as a young man, you know, growing up in Chile, what was high school like for you? Were you good at school? Did you like school? You know, if you were in a farm area, did you have to take a bus to school, or was there a school nearby?
There was like two different periods of time that I will want to talk. Like the first one was when I was like little, and I really enjoyed going to school. I really enjoyed doing a lot of sports. So I am also a little bit talkative.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, over there for me, high school was great. And then my parents split, and that was kind of hard. My family struggled a little bit for money, and then I passed from going by car to my school to start taking public transport and start like doing all different stuff. Actually, staying longer in the school because I don't know, I feel more comfortable over there. And that's when.
And then when you were in high school, did you already understand or have a plan of what you wanted to do in your life? Like, what were the hobbies that you like to do?
Actually, I was really good at the sport, at basketball and swimming. I participated in two national championships, one in swimming and one in basketball. But academically, like I didn't know yet what I wanted to do. I was good with my hands. I was good like assembling stuff, and I say why not mechanical engineer or be a mechanical, but like in that moment I wasn't sure at all. Like
Yeah, and then how did you find yourself in the engineering world? Like, I know that in many countries outside of Canada, engineering is one of the top things people take. And it's like if you want to take engineering, you can take engineering to find a job and to sometimes leave the country because engineers can move around because it's the language of mathematics. You know what I mean? Now, did you think about any of that stuff, or were you just like, I don't know what I want to do? Everyone is saying maybe engineering, or did you think about maybe being something else?
Uh, Actually, yeah, I was not. I always wanted to be an engineer because my mom was one and my dad was also another one.
Mm-hmm.
But the cool thing about engineering is that it's applicable to everything. So when I thought about engineering, was like it was a way of not having to decide right now.
Mm-hmm.
So
You
I
could
put
decide where later. Yeah.
exactly. And as I picked later the University of Chile, and in that university you have two years in which they teach you about everything. So you have like you can decide later. I was always trying to postpone my decision because I was I always felt myself like good at a lot of stuff. So it was really hard for me to choose.
And what were the ones you were looking at the most? In the world of engineering, there's so much. Now, it depends on the university. Some universities will have different programs, but most universities will have mechanical, static, materials, fluid, hydraulic, or, at the University of Chile, what were the options available to you? And then what did you end up choosing?
I could do electrical engineering, mechanical, physics, astronomy, biotechnology, chemistry. What else? Geology. So yeah, I have plenty to choose though.
Mm-hmm.
Lastly I chose mechanical engineer because there was like I always wanted to study and to help renewable energies like development
Okay.
or to know a little bit more about that. And mechanical engineering, at least at the University of Chile, is focused on that. So I could understand better the fluid, the heat transfer processes, and it's kind of related also to Chilean industry though. So we have a lot of mining,
Mm-hmm.
and with that I hope to use like a good position in how to say in the working
Industry.
yeah, exactly. And I could like not start from fresh when I arrived there. So that was kind of my thinking in that moment.
And like the mining industry is huge in Chile. It's one of the main exports, and it's one of the better paying jobs, one of the better, although the mining industry can be quite dangerous still in South America.
Yeah.
You know, as as you were working through your mechanical engineering, degree, what, you're getting close to graduation, were you thinking, I'm going to graduate, I'm going to go work for a company, or were you thinking, I'm going to get a master's? How were you doing? Like, did you enjoy school?
Yeah, I did enjoy school, but I was thinking about traveling in that moment. So as I am a curious person, like, and all my family has been living abroad, like in different countries, I wanted to go and live by myself for a while. So I went to Spain in 2016 and I did an exchange over there, and I really liked it. I really like how like living by myself. I really like the experience. I really like talking with people.
Hmm.
So I then my next decision was like, how can I keep going in my career and also like keep getting this experience though. So that
Hmm.
is how I arrived in Canada the first time actually.
So, what was the exchange in Spain for? What was that about, and how long did that last?
It it was 8 months, and it was mostly, well, at least for me, about traveling. but but it was in a program in where over there I could research about fluids and about renewable energy. So when I was there, I was with a top people in the field that they were researching about solar panels. Spain is huge about solar panels. In the south,
Hmm.
they have a huge grounds for that, and they are developing like cool stuff over there. So that was my point of being at the university in Spain. But also, as an engineer, I was missing some parts though. So I was curious about, I don't know, ancient Egypt. I was curious about sports, like to know a little bit better how can I improve uh, how can I improve myself when doing a sport. So I
Hmm.
did take two courses related with like my mechanical degree. and I take ancient Egypt. And I was in Egypt. I went to Egypt, and I saw a lot of cool things over there. And then I also take physical education courses. That was like only for myself. So that my experience over there was chill, was really enrichment, and it was awesome. Like it was awesome.
And then you went back to Chile after you were done.
Yeah, yeah.
And then how did that feel being back to normal? At this point, you must be close to finishing your degree. Is your degree done or yeah?
Yeah, in that moment, I have only like 1.5 years left. Well, in Chile, the degree takes 6 years. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I was in my 4.5 year. And when I arrived, it was weird to start taking orders of my mom again. Like, I didn't like it at all, though. I didn't like and also not having my own money, though. The scholarship
Mm-hmm.
in Spain was, well, all my program was financed by the Banco Santander. And it was like 9,000 euros for 8 months. So I have plenty of money over there, and being back to Chile and being back to don't not having enough money for yourself and asking your parents, it's
Mm-hmm.
not good. Not good at all. It's frustrating though.
Mm-hmm. And so then what was the thought? Were you like, I better get to work? I better finish my degree and get a job so I can move out and get my own money? Or what was the plan there as soon as you were looking at finishing your degree?
I wanted to do an internship in North America in that moment. After
Mm-hmm.
I finished my exchange, I get the idea. I got the idea of being in North America and doing anything. I don't know, working, researching, whatever that I could. And I saw the opportunity. Some guy, it's a friend of mine, a classmate, told me like that there was an opportunity to do a research internship with Dr. Patricio in here in the at the UofA, and I was like, okay, let's see what happens and let's see if I can go there. And that was kind of my path, though. So
Yeah. And did you already have your undergrad done? Like, so your degree was done before you came up here, or you were still within just trying to finish your first engineering degree?
I was trying to finish my mechanical degree. So
Mm-hmm.
it was in my 5.5 years when I arrived here, and it was kind of the excuse of doing my thesis in a cool topic. So Patricio was researching plasmas in tungsten or welding,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't know anything about that. I didn't know anything about welding. I didn't know a little bit about welding. I didn't knew about metallurgy. I didn't know about metallurgy in general, but I didn't know anything about welding. So when I arrived here, I learned a lot and different cool stuff though, like thermal videos of welding, like seeing the arc, like adjusting the current or the voltage of the machines, or seeing the effect of different alloys. How do you weld them? So it was a whole new world, and it was really interesting.
So let's back up a little bit. Like
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
from Chile, and when I talk to my cousins in Chile and I say, "Do you guys speak English?" and they're like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I speak English. I speak English." And then I talk to them in English and they're like, "I don't understand a thing you say." And then I'm like, "Okay, you say something," and they don't understand a thing. I don't understand a thing they say. So, going to Spain, I understand. El español is a little bit different than Chilean, but you can figure it out, right? But how was it coming here with your English? How was your English before you came?
Ooh, that's a hard question because actually I don't know how it was.
I mean, I guess people should know that Dr. Patricio Mendez is from Argentina and speaks Spanish. So
Yeah, yeah.
that makes it a little bit easier, but what about like the English in your normal life?
In my school, I did have some courses on English, but for me, they were like really, really bad and really like
Hmm.
initial courses. So, and also, as we are Chileans, it's really hard to speak slowly.
It
And
is. We speak very fast,
exactly, and to speak in English, you have to take time to pronounce the stuff. You have to take time to do the sounds right. That is kind of hard. Even like right now for me, like I have to cool down. I have to stop. Like
Hmm.
I have to start breathing and like say the words slowly. But yeah, when I arrived here, I think actually when I was in Spain, I traveled a lot. So over there, I figured out that the English was like a cool thing to know and to use.
Hmm.
And I was like, for example, in Egypt, and everybody taught me in English, talks me in English, and I was like, man, that is like that is interesting. First of all, and second of all,
Yeah.
it's a huge tool though. So yeah, and the reason why I chose North America was because I wanted to improve my English. my English.
So do you think that if it wasn't for Dr. Mendez, you wouldn't have come to the U of A? Or do you like, I mean, it must have
That's
been a little bit of a factor knowing that there's a professor that speaks Spanish.
actually it wasn't. When I
No?
applied, I
Okay.
didn't care. No, I didn't choose for him or like I choose because of the projects that I could read about were really cool.
Hmm.
And then the later was under knowing that he speaks Spanish, so it's going to be way easier to communicate. But no, at the beginning I didn't think about that. That is kind of myself though. Like how I think is like let's solve one problem step by step, and if I got accepted, then let's see what happens next. No, so
Yeah.
yeah, I started
And
like that. Sorry.
what was the immigration process like? So let's pretend someone in Chile is listening to this right now and they want to come to Canada to study at a university.
Mhm.
What are the steps that you had to take? What are the things you had to do in order to get here?
First of all, I would say that you have to talk with the international office of the University of Alberta. They have people who speak Spanish and who speak in English. So that is pretty good to give you advice to like get an idea of what you can do over here or what you cannot do.
Hmm.
Second of all, it's really important that you talk with someone that is over here, like a professor, a student, or whatever, like or whoever is here, because with that you can get a better like insight of what is happening. Then, like talking about getting the papers for the Chileans, I think it's quite easy though.
Hmm.
So you can get not a visa, but you can. Well, it's actually a waiver visa that is like it allows you to be 4 months over here, like not researching, not working, but you can know the country, you can know the culture, you can like
Hmm.
get used to it. And yeah, if you want to explore, like to do a degree over here, then probably spending 4 months over here, like even if you work and you don't pay taxes, like there's a lot of people who hire people like that.
Hmm.
So you can stay here, you can learn a little bit of English, you can like have a really good insight, and yeah, I would say that are like kind of the three main steps for you to know better how the system works. So
And that's a good pointer because sometimes people just want to move here because they think it's going to be an easier life. And I think that there maybe is more opportunity in North America. That's always there's opportunity everywhere in the world,
I
so it
agree
is
with
what
you.
it is. But I don't know if it's easier. And I don't think people should think like that, like it's going to be easier coming to Canada because we have a different system and it's a hard system to learn. And
No,
sometimes people come here with all the best intentions, but they never get used to the
yeah,
life here. And
yeah,
so it's a good idea to maybe come because you don't need a visa. We're a part of NAFTA. Chile's a part of NAFTA. So you can come here without a visa for I think up to 4 months, right?
yeah,
And you
yeah,
can just come check it out and see if you like it. Maybe you're gonna hate it, you know, maybe. And if you
yeah.
do decide to like it, then you can start working on getting a student visa or a work visa, apply to college, and which you had to do to stay longer, right? So after you were
Exactly.
here, how was that process in terms of getting a visa?
Well, a little thing before
Okay.
that is like over here the weather is so different than in Chile, like so different that it really hits you. Like even if you have you good company and you are like doing stuff, it hits you hard though. -40 is not a temperature that we never dream in Chile about, so it's crazy. And yeah, like to live over here has to be something like the people has to do though. It's like the people have to do it. Like it's really important, I would say. And then what you say, yeah, I did get an study permit that was like 200 Canadians,
Mm-hmm.
and you do it all through immigrations, being guided by the University International Office, and it wasn't hard at all though. Like it was kind of fast. I obtained my visa in like 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So the part that took most of my time was the part of giving my biometrics. That you have to go to an office in Santiago and like you have to ask for a schedule an appointment, and then they have to allow you to go, and there is a lot of security to go inside the building. So there are like that is kind of the most the hardest step over there.
And you have to do that in Santiago, so you had to go back to do that. You couldn't do it from here.
there's two ways. At least the way that I did it was like over there, going back over there and then applying for my study permit.
Hmm.
But yeah, I know there are some people who can get it from here. I don't know. I don't really know what is the process, so I prefer not to
Yeah.
say like
Yeah.
things that I'm not sure. But yeah, in Santiago was easy, was clean, was like transparent, so it was
Hmm.
pretty cool.
Okay, so that's interesting. It's funny you say minus 40 is a different thing. I have cousins all the time tell me, I want to come to Canada. I want to experience winter. I want to go out skiing and snowboarding and skating. And I say, yeah, skiing, snowboarding, and skating is fun from -5 to -15. That window. Once you go past -20, you're not doing anything. You
Yeah,
are
yeah,
you are inside and you are hiding, and even inside the house with the heat on, it's still cold, like.
yeah, yeah. It's weird. It's like yeah, it's different. Exactly, it's a whole different experience to live in Canada.
Hmm. And what about the summers? So
Oh,
people
I
don't
love
get too scared. So people don't get too scared. How's summers?
the summers are great. So, like, I have been practicing triathlon, so I swam in a lake like in the Canadian Open, sorry, in the PTO Canadian Open on May. So I swam over there and I swam 2K in the lake in a lake over there. It was crazy. It was cold. I swam with 1,000 people. So it was awesome, like a cool experience. Then you have a like very very beautiful landscapes. You have like in the fall, you have all these different colors of the leaves. You have a great weather. You have Banff. Well, at least in Alberta, you have Banff, Jasper. You have the Rockies. You have how do you call that? Hot waters, springs,
Hmm.
hot
Hot
springs,
springs, yeah.
hot springs in the mountains. So it's awesome. Like really, really in summer, it's great. Come in
Yeah.
summer.
And Edmonton is a fun city. Edmonton's a very fun city too.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, yeah. You have
All
a lot
right.
to do.
Yeah. So this is a good time to take a break. And when we get back from the commercials, what we'll do is we'll talk about what you do now at the University of Alberta, and the group within there, and where your career is going. So for all the people that have been listening, stay tuned. We're going to be back here with Stefano from Chile, who's studying at the University of Alberta on the CWB Association podcast. And we are back on the CWB Association podcast. My name is Max Ceron, and I'm here with Stefano, who is studying at the U of A. I mean, you got to be almost done. You've been here, what, a year now? Almost
Yeah, a year and a half.
a year and a half. And, you've been doing a lot of great work. I got introduced to you through your professor, Patricio Mendez, who is Argentinian and, connected to the Canadian Welding Bureau on many levels, many different the types of connections and affiliations, and then also in terms of the work you're doing.
Mhm.
And that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you about. You came to Canada as an engineer,
Yeah.
and then you got pulled into, sort of sucked into the world of Patricio, and he has always so many amazing projects going on. So
Yes.
what did he pull you into? What did you start working on, and where has it led from there?
I started on tungsten welding plasmas, so learning a little bit, developing equations to estimate the width of the arc, and that project is kind of in standby right now because we are waiting for some values that we haven't received yet, and with that we will progress. But my project right now is researching hydrogen in steel. So I was a company over here in Edmonton called Alta Steel hire Patricio to solve a problem that they have, and they want to estimate the amount of hydrogen in all the steel making steps. So they sponsorship my master over here.
Hmm.
Sorry, they sponsor my master over here, and with that, like I have been able to be involved in the lab. Though that is a crazy lab. You have been here a lot, and it's crazy.
Hmm.
You have lasers. We have like, and also we have a lot of administrative and politics happening over there, though. We,
That's all universities, my friend. All universities have a lot of politics.
yeah, that's true though. We went also to the PubTech in Toronto with you over there, and that experience was really really good for all of us that have never ever present in any congress before.
Hmm.
So we met a lot of interesting people. We talked a lot of different projects. Afterwards, we went to Waterloo University to see their welding department. So kind of changed my mind in how the things develop though. So yeah, it's really important to do networking. It's really important to share knowledge, to be able to learn and to be taught, to be teach for different people.
Yeah, having, and this is something that I've said to you, and I think you're learning now as you're getting a little older and more mature in your career, how important networking is. Like, people will tell you all the time, networking is important, and you're like, yeah, 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 until you do something like a fab tech or a can weld, and then you're like, oh my god, there's so many smart people on this planet, and everyone has all these amazing things, and the things that you think about other people are thinking about too, and it's like, oh, and sometimes it's good because you like realize that maybe you have maybe slightly a wrong approach and you maybe need to adjust a little bit, and that's a good thing to learn. Or sometimes you see an opportunity that you never even thought about, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, actually,
So,
yes. Like being in Canada is a whole new opportunity, and being at UofA researching for a company that is a project that you can see. And I went there to do measurements. I went there to study like what I will do. I went there to see the process. I was like a metallurgy engineer for a day or 2 days over there.
mhm,
That is things that at least I consider like more valuable than gold. So
yeah. So, in terms of your work with hydrogen,
uh-huh.
I assume that your work is to try to limit or contain, the amount of hydrogen in the production of steel. That's generally a problem. Hydrogen-induced cracking, especially going forward, is going to be a big problem as we start to use hydrogen as a fuel source more and more as well,
Yeah.
right? So, what are you learning about hydrogen? What are some of the things that you're finding through your research?
Well, first of all, it's really hard to control. Like it's
Yeah, it's everywhere.
it's
And it's
everywhere.
the
Yeah,
smallest atom on the periodic table, so it can literally diffuse into anything.
exactly, exactly. It's like if you have big holes in the steel practically for the hydrogen, so it just like interact with everything. It just is in everything. But more than control it, I would say that what Alta Steel asked me to do is how can help help the hydrogen atom to diffuse faster or to control the to control the time that the hydrogen is over there.
Mhm,
And with that, I think the temperature is the most important thing, even for welders. Like if you get a weld that doesn't cool down in 12 seconds, but in 24, as the temperature in the welds is so high, then probably the amount of hydrogen should be could be half of what it used to be. So it's like the temperature and the time are the main factors that affect hydrogen diffusion. And yeah, about the hydrogen in this crack, it depends on the carbides and depend on the base material mostly. But if you can control the temperature and if you can, like for example, if you don't want a really hard material, you want it to be a little bit more softer, but you are control the amount of hydrogen that is in the steel, then probably put it on a chamber, or I don't know, do 3 welds, one for like to actually weld and the other one to control the temperature of that weld. So with that you can have a slow cooling, and that
mhm,
is kind of what Alta Steel is doing actually. They created a slow cooling chamber, so the temperature over there is it changes from 550 Celsius degree to 220 Celsius degree in like 16, 18 hours. So with that
mhm.
they bake out the hydrogen,
Yeah.
and that is
So, like, through kind of an annealing process.
exactly kind of, yeah, yeah. But then you have to do the another process to get the microstructures that you want.
Yeah. So that's an interesting thing, because I was just talking to yesterday an interesting metallurgist named Shane Turcott about this same thing, about microstructures, and how much people don't understand what that means. People say the term all the time, microstructure. Okay, well, what the does it mean? And hydrogen being so small and so easily migrate, like it migrates so easily within materials, which means it can travel. So, if I say to somebody, I drop a piece of sugar in water, how long does it take for that sugar to melt? And then how long does it take for that sugar to sink to the bottom? Those are two different things. The concentration will be high where it first hit the water, and it diffuses as it sinks, and it takes X amount of time to get to the bottom. Now, if you think of hydrogen, you drop it in there and it's in the bottom like instantly and diffused within the whole glass, like in microseconds, right? So
Yeah,
that's a big problem for steel. Now, heat allows the steel to be soft and allow the hydrogen to just naturally kind of fall out.
exactly.
But maintaining the heat also changes the structure of the steel. So now you got
Yeah,
to think about what the alloys are, because hydrogen's not the only thing that wants to move. Carbon likes to move. The alloys like to move. If you're putting in a little nickel or titanium or manganese or whatever it is, they also want to migrate. They also want to diffuse. So, how do you start controlling all these elements? How do you do that?
well, there are two kind of hydrogen that at least we can notice. There is one that is trapped hydrogen, that, for example, around a huge atom, like a carbon atom or
Hmm.
like a carbide. Probably there is going to be inclusions of hydrogen beneath it. So there is like this hydrogen is the one that at least looks harmless. So it's over there. It's not going to move. All the process you can use it. It's not going to cause hydrogen embrittlement. But
Hmm.
for the diffusible hydrogen, that is the one that is like still free in the lattice. That is the one that you have to be careful about, and to let them diffuse and to let them to let it diffuse and to let it like to be more kind of controlled. It's really hard. Like even if you control temperature, if you control time, you are going to have like, as you say, alloys that could
Hmm.
have like different, or that could generate different dislocations in the material, or could generate, I don't know, imperfections. And with this, you're going to have points in which the hydrogen will be diffused. So it's really hard, though. It's really, really hard.
Yeah, they'll get into every little crack they can, every little space. I
Exactly.
remember I remember early in my career I saw two experiments that kind of changed the way I look at hydrogen. One of them was just showing how most hydrogen cracking happens on the edge of the heat affected zone, because in the weld itself there's enough heat to basically bake out the hydrogen. In the center of the weld is rarely when hydrogen cracking is going to happen, because it's just too hot. It'll cook it out. But as the temperature changes towards the cold steel or the parent metal, there's that heat affected zone, and it's usually at some point in that temperature change is where that hydrogen induced cracking happens, because that's the easiest place for that diffusing to not occur, where that hydrogen gets trapped on the way out and it creates like a pocket, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Now, that's a problem. Hydrogen expands and contracts. It'll crack it over time. The interesting thing about hydrogen cracking for all the people listening is that it doesn't happen today. When I weld, the weld looks fine. It'll pass inspection. It'll pass UT. It'll pass mag particle. It'll pass every test. It'll pass a bend test, everything. And then it'll go into service. And 10 years later, it cracks in half. You know what I mean? And that's dangerous when you look at bridges or construction of buildings. That's very dangerous. The second experiment I saw was about how long hydrogen diffusion takes place on a span of time. So what this person did is they welded two plates with a 6010, which is very high in hydrogen, very high hydrogen rod. Basically the worst rod ever for hydrogen, right? So he welded two 3/8 plates fully, and then he left one out in the air, and then he put another one and he dropped it into a container of mineral oil. Okay, he just dropped it in the container of mineral oil, and you could see it bubbling, little bubbles coming out of the welded plate. And he goes, "Well, that's going to be trapped oxygen, whatever, air, things that happen, heat changes that happens." And then he had the other plate just sitting out. Then he pulled out from under the table another mineral oil container, and I had a plate. And then he said, "I welded this one year ago, 365 days ago. I welded this one." And he put the two containers side by side, and it was still bubbling.
Oh,
It
that's
was
crazy.
still there was still things coming out of that steel, and it was mainly hydrogen at that point because all the big stuff is out. It's the only thing that's going to stay that long is hydrogen. And he said, think about this. There's things that are going in and out of steel for decades, you know, and as the temperature changes, as the environment changes, even around welded components, it could be reintroducing hydrogen back into those cavities that have been there, and I remember thinking like, wow, I know nothing. This is crazy. Like,
It's really crazy. Uh, Like, don't feel bad. Almost all of the people know nothing about hydrogen. Like, it's crazy. Even the huge guys who study it, they don't have one posture about it. Like they are still discussing. They are still like there's anything like that is true about hydrogen.
So now, with this research that you're working on, what do you think are going to be like the next steps for you? Where do you see this research going with you? At some point, you're going to finish with this company, right? And like, are you close to finishing your master's as well?
Well, yes and no. My master, my topic, it's going to be probably I will be finishing and writing my thesis on February next year.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to do an internship before in my master, so I wanted to spend 4 more months in Canada. And actually, I'm looking for a company. And
Shout out to the companies looking for an engineering metallurgist.
but yeah, and then I want to go back to Chile and like, well, in mining, I'm sure you have hydrogen problem. I don't know if in Chile you are able to quantify it or it's anyone measuring it, but I'm sure it exists that problem. So probably I
Mhm.
could bring that knowledge over there and see how I can apply it over there. That would be cool.
Here's a question for you then that I've
Mhm.
never thought about till just now. Maybe I'm dumb, but maybe you can make me smarter. Does hydrogen present the same issues in other metals that it does in steel? So let's say gold or copper or aluminum. Does hydrogen possess the same embrittlement issues within those different lattice structures of those metals? Because you say Chile, I immediately think of copper. I immediately think of gold and silver and nickel and all the other things that we pull out of the Chilean mountains, the Andes. But is hydrogen an issue for those metals? Like if I have a ring of gold and it's high hydrogen issues, well, someday will that embrittle?
Yeah, yeah. I know what you're asking. I haven't read about it, but probably I would say yes. So
Mm-hmm.
hydrogen can diffuse and hydrogen can be inside of everything. But also the velocity of hydrogen diffusing depends on of the microstructure.
Right.
So on gold or aluminum, on different even in different steels, you have different microstructures and you have different velocities.
Mm-hmm. Because even
So
hydrogen doesn't pose as much of an issue in stainless steel, which is like 90% steel. But the little bit of nickel and chrome seems to not make the hydrogen as big of an issue. Or am I wrong? Is it still just as big a
no,
problem?
no, you're right. You're right though. Like, but it could be because you are adding carbides, and these carbides trap the hydrogen, so they don't let it
Right.
diffuse. And with that, you don't have this huge space of nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be the reason. I really don't know, but could be.
You should write that down. That could be what you do in Chile.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So then when let's talk a little bit about fab tech, because I love what you're doing with your career. You've been doing some speaking tours. You did a little bit of talking and presentations. You've done some presentations in Alberta. What is it that you present about? When you do a presentation, what is it that you present?
That's weird, but like, well, there are three different kind of presentations that I am preparing at least. One of them has been like two of them have been technical presentation. One about hydrogen in the steel, the other
Mm-hmm.
one is talking about welding, and the third one is like as vice president of the CWB University of Alberta student chapter. So that was with the guys in Nate. So like we were over there. It was a student night, making no thinking thought about it like a way to know and to meet other students that were like developing similar skills that you are.
Mm-hmm.
And over there, I kind of talk with them, not in a speech, but like talking like kind of common people, guys. I
Yep.
am a Stefano. I am a student as you are, and I would love to share more with you. I really don't know how to weld. I am in a really huge welding lab, but I don't know how to weld. And mostly anybody in our lab know how to weld. So if you want to approach us and you want to see what is over there, what could be interesting for you guys, please go. And actually, tomorrow we have a visit. The guys from Nate that we met in that moment, they are coming, and it would be cool like to start sharing more though. I felt in that day that we're like two different worlds, but it shouldn't be like that though. These guys were really cool. They were awesome, and they should or they should give them no, they should have the chance to know our work and to like share it. I don't know how if I explain it that way. Like okay, sorry.
No, it makes sense because I say this all the time. I say this all the time to you. I say it, welders, I'm a welder. Like I come from welding. I was like just like those students in Nate. And the only reason I went down the path I went is because my dad, he studied at the University in Chile for metallurgy. And so I had this little bit of background that created this interest in me that when I got older, through my chapter, through the CWB Association chapter 20 years ago, I was able to start meeting people at the university here in Saskatchewan and talking, and then they invite me to see what they're doing, and I learn, and then I start, but they would say even just like, oh, buy this book, it's a great book, and oh yeah, and I would buy it and learn, you know what I mean? Because it was
Yeah.
no one else would tell me about these things, and what you're doing is exactly what I think the CWB Association needs is to we're about networking. We don't care what your specific job is. I don't care if you're in sales, I don't care if you're a welder, a fabricator, an engineer, whatever it is. Even if you're a retired person and it's just a hobby, I don't care. You have a space and you have a right to know. This education should not be guarded. It should not be secret. Share the knowledge, share it with each other. It makes everybody better, right?
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
love that you're doing it. And
Totally.
I saw the pictures. You guys had a great opening night there.
Yeah, it was cool. It was well. We have a great barbecue,
Yeah.
and we saw cool robots. They show us like a plasma cutter that they have over there. And tomorrow we are expecting to show them the friction stir welding, the lasers, the hydrogen machines, the speed camera, sorry, the fastest speed cameras,
Hmm.
and I don't know the highest speed camera. That's the term. There you. And I don't know, just to share those. That there are people as you and me, so share and give them a space to be able to share though.
Yeah. And that's great. And let's talk a little bit then about the chapter.
Yep.
When you got to Canada and you started studying under Patricio at the University of Alberta, how long did it take before he said something about the chapter? Or was it somebody
Nothing.
else? Or was it Gentry or was it Nairn or how
No,
did you
nothing.
fit how did you find out about the chapter? How did you find out about any of this?
When I arrived at the CCWJ lab, like you, I think you cannot tell that there are two different things. There is the chapter and it this is and the CCWJ lab is almost the same though. So whenever you're doing anything, there is always the Edmonton chapter supporting, or there is a support of the Canadian Welding Bureau, like in general, or Canadian
Mhm.
Welding Foundation, I think is the name.
No, well, there's the bureau, the foundation, the association. We're all underneath the bureau.
Okay, okay. So, and yeah, I hear from you ASAP, and actually we had a meeting with all the other Chileans. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So just to get to know you, like to see that there is a Chilean doing cool stuff for everybody, that was really cool. Though.
And then, as you guys decide to join the chapter, what kind of work or opportunities do you think it has given you?
First of all, the award, like it gave me the opportunity to go back to Chile and spend the holidays with my family. Like
Mhm.
that is for me is huge. That is really important. And then be back over here and be able to keep working and like yeah, just to have the financial support to do so to do that, it was awesome. And
Yeah.
also like
And we give out a lot of awards.
yeah, yeah, you do like yeah, yeah. For my chapter, I think we have been awarded like 5 times this year or 6 times, different people. So it is really really good.
Yeah. And even what your chapter is doing, with the red bench and the, supporting your community, that's what it's all about, right? It's and that's the networking because Joe and Mackenzie that are running the red bench, they are also University of Alberta grads and they're out there making money and working and doing their thing. And you guys are all connected and for generations, like if you go back to Chile next year, which I'm not sure you will because sometimes people get stuck in Canada forever, but we'll see. If you go back to Chile, 10 years from now, you might get a call from somebody from here and say, hey, I'm coming down for a holiday or for work, and those connections will exist forever.
Yeah, yeah, it will be like that though. Yeah, yeah, I hope so. Like I have friends in India, I have friends in Canada, I have friends in the States. have friends in China. That is really weird, but yes,
Hmm.
I have friends in Europe, and that networking, that kind of people that is really special and make your trip special, your experience special, is is awesome. Like it's make it worth it. So,
Yeah. Now, in terms of your personal, journey, you said you want to finish your master's and then go back to Chile and try to find some work. Are you thinking PhD somewhere down the line? Like I know that you get a lot of pressure from the people to go for your PhD, but that's another 4 or 5 years.
yeah, but the thing is like studying for me, like it's not an issue. I like the study. I like to learn. I like to be in a rich environment that allows me to learn a lot. But right now, I have my girlfriend in Chile that we have been together 9 years. 9 years.
Hmm.
So she's finishing her degree. She's studying veterinary medicine,
Hmm.
and she needs to work a little bit over there to settle all their knowledge and to settle all everything. Like she's going to do a surgery. It cannot be in another language, first of all. It
Yeah,
can.
yeah.
So she has to settle all of that, all that knowledge, and then we will see what happens. Though. But yeah, that is the reason actually why I'm not staying in here, because Patricio was joking with me like, "Hey, do a PhD, man." Like, profe, I have my girlfriend over there, and I have to go back. That later
Well,
we
and I
will see.
and I think that it's what you're doing is a good idea. It's something that I think sometimes gets a little bit lost in academia is that it's good to work in industry. It's good to put some time in industry. And maybe you get your PhD and maybe you stay in because after a PhD, generally you teach, you become a teacher or some kind. But I really think that it's valuable to spend some time working, and then you get the skills and you see the obstacles mainly that industry has. And I think it'll give you lots of ideas, even if you do decide to go back to school.
And with the run, well, we want to also to create a chapter in Chile that we hope that it's going to be connected with the Canadian Welding Association. So
Hmm.
if we do so, then there is a lot of job in Chile that we can do, and that we can have an impact in Chile, in the connections between Chile and Canada. And that is huge, and that I, I will be really glad to do that job. Like to bring something back to Chile, to bring something back to the people in Chile, and to let them experience a tiny piece of what I experienced over here. That would be
Well, I'm working my butt off to try to make that happen for you guys too,
awesome.
because I want to have these international chapters go up because I think that so first of all, the CWB group, the association, we're the only type of association for steel industry like this in the world. Like we're the only ones that really do this. The AWS, they have their motto, but they're not a national organization. They're not, like built the way we are. And I would love to see CWB Association wherever there's educational opportunities. I want to see it for an educational exchange, an experience exchange. I think that's a beautiful dream.
Yeah, that is beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. No, but we're going to make it through. No worries. Like, let's see
Okay,
but
we'll figure it out. Don't There's always a way.
yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Like I always say to my boss, I like to bat 1,000. I don't like to lose, and I don't accept losing. I'll figure it out.
I agree with you, Max. I agree with you.
So let's talk about a little. We're coming up to the end of the interview. I got a couple of questions for you. You know, in terms of the industry that you have experienced in Canada and the way industry exists here in Canada, what would you say are some of the biggest differences in terms of how the same industries run in Chile or even the universities? What would be the difference between the universities here and the university in Chile?
I would say that, well, at least as a student, and even in the industry, the companies over here are not as vertical as they are in Chile, meaning that jerarquía, how can I say that? Hierarchy?
Hierarchy. Yeah.
Hierarchy, okay. Meaning that the hierarchy over here is not as clear as it is in Chile. In Chile, you have your boss, and you have like kind of a goddess version of your god, of your boss. Over here, it's not like that. Over here, you have more sympathy with your boss. You have like a better treat with him, a closer treat. And I think that is really important though. Like, because you can talk better, you can communicate better, you have like even with the professors over here, you call them by his or her first name. In Chile, it's like doctor last name or professor last name, and you have to be really respectful with them. It doesn't mean that over here you don't have to be respectful, but over there it's mandatory to be.
Mm-hmm.
That is a huge difference.
Yeah, and that's something that comes up in conversation all the time is the new type of business model. With the new generations coming up from in the world today, the millennials, the Gen Zs, the digital generations that are coming up, they have a different way of looking at the world, a different way of doing business, a different way of interacting. And I find, I agree with you, that Chile is kind of stuck in like the 50s and 60s, with like, this is your boss and that's their boss and that's their boss, and you don't talk to your boss and you don't meet that person, and you just be quiet and get to work. And I don't think that the new generation is going to put up with that. It's kind of bullshit now, like.
Yeah, I agree with you. Even as a working team, it's bullshit because you need the people to be communicating with each other. So it's bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah. And then my last question to wrap up the interview, Stefano, because this has been fantastic, and I think people will get a lot of good information out of this, is looking back on your life, as a young man just about to enter university, that space, that summer before school starts for university. If you could go back in time right now, and what advice would you give yourself? So you haven't been to Egypt, you haven't been to Spain, you haven't been to Canada, you're just a young man, not sure what you're going to do in engineering. What advice would you give yourself?
Be cool, like breathe, and you have time. Like make. I would tell myself that you have time to do decisions. Like don't rush on it. Explore the options. Like and don't be stressed about it. Most of the time, the good things take time. So you have to develop yourself. You have to grow a little bit. You have to learn, and then probably you're going to be some results. But if there is no results, don't be stressed about it. Just keep going, keep doing it. Be consistent. That is, I would say that is really important. Though. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to be on the interview. This has been fantastic. And like I said, this is only part one. Part two will be in Spanish, and I'm not going to ask you the same questions. So it's not like you get a free pass.
No, it would be better though, because my Spanish is, well, I am a Spanish speaker, not an English speaker. So.
And I'm sure Patricia's going to listen to this and be like, "Oh, I'm going to find out what he said about me." But we love you, Patricia. We do. We love you.
Yeah,
You're the best. All right. Well, thank you very much. Is there anything you'd like to say to anybody? Any shout outs to anybody?
No, yeah.
Your girlfriend?
Well, for sure, yeah. But she doesn't know that I am doing this though, so I have to tell her. But yeah, like I already say live that I will be going back to Chile, so trust me in that.
Awesome. Okay, well, and to all the people that have been listening, thank you very much. If you're interested in any of the programs at the University of Alberta, just Google it. The University of Alberta has a great program, one of only a few select colleges around the world that specializes in steel production metallurgy. The CCWJ is one of a very unique and fantastic program, and Canada is very privileged to have only two of these universities that exist around the world. So, take advantage of these great educational opportunities in Canada. And if you have any questions about, the immigration process or anything like that, reach out to the CWB Association anytime. We have a website actually that helps with immigration in terms of coming to study or work as a welder here in Canada for the steel trade. So, make sure you keep downloading the episodes, and please stay tuned for our next one.
We hope you enjoyed the show.